Hey there YouTube, Skragg 101 coming at you today with a quick review on some weapons lubricant that I found. These guys are called Crusader Weaponry. You can find them at crusaderweaponry.com, and the lubricant is called SlipStream. You can buy this stuff in these half-ounce vials. It comes in both an oil and a grease. You can buy it, just the oil, from them for about 12 bucks, but I highly recommend getting both the oil with the grease. Reason being, they specifically say in some of their demonstration videos that some weapons do better with a combination of oil and grease versus just the oil or just the grease. I'm not sure if you can buy just the grease. I didn't see any pricing that says that you can, but like I said, for $23.99, you get both, and I highly recommend getting it, just because through my own usage of playing around, going a little heavier on the grease side or a little heavier on the oil side, for my particular weapons, sometimes they've been more liking to more grease, sometimes it's a 50-50, and sometimes it's more so just the oil. With that said, this stuff is amazing. I've used a couple different high-priced oils out there, saying they're the best, they're the most lubricants, yada yada yada. I don't think they touch this stuff. When I first got it, I wasn't super impressed. One, I thought the packaging was kind of hokey, but that's just because it's kind of an upstart business. Two, I thought the quantities were kind of small. Again, that was just not understanding how the system worked. But in using it, I've been using it now for about 6 months, and I can say that the quantity that they give you is more than enough. The oil here that I've been using it on my primary firearms that I shoot, once to twice a month. My handgun that I shoot 4 times a month. I take it out every weekend just to make sure that everything's going through it nice and good. And in doing that, I've only gone through about a third of the bottle of the oil in 6 months' time. So if you average that out, I'm going to get a year and a half from 1 half-ounce bottle. And on the grease, this stuff it's almost to the top still. I don't know how well you guys can see that at home, but it's used very, very sparsely. And in my own testing, and comparing it to a couple other guns, I've put it on a friend of mine's Glock 19, that I lubed up and did exactly the way that I do my M&P 9mm, and I found that I get a better result with his gun if I use a little bit more of the grease. Don't know why, but I do. And with my gun, I find a little bit better result when I use a little more of the oil. Don't know why, but I do. When I first applied it to the weapon, I was expecting the top-notch performance that I saw from the user Matt Ogre. He had a comparison of an M&P with the lubricant added to it and an M&P without the lubricant added to it. With it, it virtually made the recoil spring noiseless. Without it, you could hear the spring binding and contracting and doing all its compressing and uncompressing, and it was very definite improvement over the two. When I got my weapon, and this is probably just through my own inexperience with using the system, I didn't get that achievement right away. But because I stuck with the system and I kept using it, kept applying it in different combinations, a little heavier grease at first, and then I found I actually had to go a little heavier towards the oil, I eventually achieved that same noise reduction in the slide when it was actuating that spring. And thus far I've been extremely impressed with how well this stuff stays lubed. Again, with my M&P, I carry the thing every day, and because I'm a larger guy, I live in a very dry environment, the oils tend to have to be refreshed using a standard oil, have to be refreshed, I would say, at least once a week. Between sweat and the dryness of the environment, your gun will get out of I call it out of spec, but you'll lose that viscosity of the oil in there fairly quickly. One thing I've noticed about this stuff is it stays. I've had a gun that I put the lube on, and when I went back the next week, the lube was still there. So I didn't touch it. I just left it alone. I shot the gun, didn't clean it, left it alone. Went another week. Pull it apart, looked at it. I could still see that the lube was still wet or moist looking. Put it back together, didn't clean it, didn't re-lube it. Shot it that weekend and continued that process for 2 months. 2 months I went without cleaning or re-lubing the gun. And again, 0 failures, which is kind of to be expected. You know, a lot of those guns you can just run bone dry and you're not going to get a failure. But again, in firing that was close to 1,000 rounds that I had gone through without having to re-lube, and that was very impressive to me. Again, this stuff, if you try it out, you may not like it at first because you don't fully understand. You know, you got to go one way or the other. But once you start figuring out the system and you use that system to its full effect, this stuff will blow your mind as far as having a top-notch weapons lubricant for not very much money. I'm going to go ahead and put the links to the websites that I know of. That there's 2 YouTube users. One is Crusader CEO, the other is Matt Ogre. Both do videos on some application and treatment methods for different style guns. The other thing that I'm really interested in now is they have an entire weapons treatment where you actually ship your gun to them, and they just call it their SlipStream treatment. And it says that what they do is not bake on, but pressure inject your rifle or pistol with the nano lubricant that they are putting into their oil and their grease. And again, in seeing some of those videos, it boggles my mind as far as how lubricated the weapons sound virtually dry. Or in some cases it looks like they're completely dry. There's no lube added to them. They're just a dry AR-15. If anybody in watching knows what an AR-15 sounds like dry, it's kind of a scary thing. And to hear the sound reduction and basically the friction reduction that's happening with a gun that's been treated with their full SlipStream treatment, it's something that I definitely want to do. Price on it right now is a little bit out of my ballpark. Working on a budget here, so right now this stuff's going to have to do, but as soon as I can, I'm going to get my gun up to those guys, have the parts treated, and try it out. And once I get that done, I'll do another review for you guys so you can know what that stuff's like too. So again, Skragg 101, checking out the SlipStream weapons lubricant system by Crusader Weaponry. I'll put the links in the comments block or in the video. Thanks for checking it out. Have a good one.